In order, please join us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you all for coming out tonight. We've got a full house here, so we'll get started. First item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from the October 12th, 2021 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a correction that needs to be made. On page 3, second paragraph, where it says Councilman Haley said the property committee meeting last week, it should be Councilman Hartwig.
Okay.
Okay, all right, we'll make that correction. Any other comments or corrections? If not, we'll approve those minutes with that correction. Next item on the agenda is the report of the town manager, Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Mayor Bright, members of council. Given the time of the year, I feel compelled to remind folks of the following statement that I'll read. Some communities in Virginia choose the date, time, and other restrictions associated with Halloween trick-or-treating. The town of Bedford does not. However, we encourage those who choose to participate in trick-or-treating to plan ahead and exercise caution. Citizens are encouraged to use flashlights when walking on neighborhood streets and to supervise children as they go from house to house. We also encourage those driving around the community during the evening hours on October 31st to exercise extra caution in light of potential weather-related conditions, as well as the likely presence of trick-or-treaters on or near neighborhood streets. And at this time, I would like to turn over the podium to Chief Foreman for a very special presentation.
Thank you, council members for allowing me to do this. We started this about 2 years ago, and obviously it's becoming very popular when we swear our new officers in. Tonight we have 2 officers to be sworn in, and I'll call them up now. Officer Travis Thomas and William Heath. Come on up. And y'all can stand over here and face this direction. Oh, right over here. Face this way. There you go.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, William Heath,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
the laws and ordinances
the laws and ordinance
of the town of Bedford,
of the town of Bedford,
that I will abide
that I will abide
by the Code of Ethics
by the Code of Ethics
for law enforcement officers
for law enforcement officers
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the town of Bedford Police Department,
of the town of Bedford Police Department,
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties
and perform all the duties
incumbent upon me
incumbent upon me
as a police officer
as a police officer
for the town of Bedford,
for the town of Bedford,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
You come over here and sign. Please. All right, we're going to have the badges pinned on the officers now. I think we've kind of walked through and pin your badge. The correct people say. All right? And Brian Merrick, pass your pin your badge. right, thank you. All right, I've got one more thing that I'm going to do tonight, because we have a number of our officers here, and we have the public here, and any other police officers here I want to have stand also. This is the law enforcement oath of honor, and since we have our citizens from the town here, I wanted myself, the two new officers, and our current officers to all recite the oath of honor in front of everybody here. So if you would, all the officers, please raise your right hand and say this at the same time I do, please. On my honor, I will never betray my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always maintain the highest ethical standards and uphold the values of my community and the agency I serve. Thank you.
And Mayor Black, I'd just like to conclude my report by thanking our newly sworn officers, all our existing sworn officers, and our community for working together to truly make this the world's best little town.
All right, do we have any appearances for council? Not? Council comments? Is council comments? Mr. Harper?
Okay, I want to start off by
May want to get folks a chance
thanking our new officers that just got sworn in. Thank them for their willingness to serve our community, protect the people in the town of Bedford. I just want to tell them, welcome aboard. You've got a great team you're going to be part of. From Todd Foreman on down, you're going to be in great hands. You're going to have great mentors. And we're thankful to have you. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
I don't have one thing, and just let everybody know, if you haven't seen it, hopefully our future governor, Glenn Youngkin, will be here Thursday at Dulles, there at 9 o'clock on the bus tour.
Please.
Just want to congratulate the new officers and thank Chief Foreman for all the work he does.
I would like to, welcome Officer Thomas and Officer Heath to the Town of Bedford Police Department. We appreciate your willingness to serve our community. You're becoming part of a innovative and very professional department, and we're glad to have you. That's all I've got right now. Reported council committees. I don't believe we've had any committee meetings since the last council meeting. Revisions to agenda. Nothing to add. All right. So the first item on the agenda is the public hearing for a budget amendment for rollover of fiscal year 2021 funds and reappropriation of fiscal year 2021 purchase orders into the fiscal year 2022 adopted budget.
Notice is hereby given that the Town Council of the Town of Bedford, Virginia, at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October 26th, is holding a public hearing in the Council Hall of the Town Municipal Building to consider a budget amendment for rollover of fiscal year 2021 funds and reappropriation of fiscal year 2021 purchase orders into the fiscal year 2022 adopted budget. At the end of fiscal year 2021, the town had numerous projects which were not completed and/or were encumbered by a purchase order. The funds for these projects are needed in order to complete designated work and therefore must be reappropriated to fiscal year 2022. The cumulative total of fiscal year 2021 rollover of funds is $1,197,546.99, and the cumulative total of fiscal year 2021 purchase orders is $1,046,771.61. Virginia Code provides that any locality may amend its budget to adjust the aggregate amount to be appropriated during the fiscal year as shown in the currently adopted budget, provided, however, any such amendment which exceeds 1% of the total expenditures shown in the currently adopted budget must be accomplished by first publishing a notice of a meeting and holding a public hearing before amending the budget. This code section applies to all locality funds, i.e. the general fund, enterprise fund, capital fund, etc. Because the cumulative amount of the appropriations exceeds 1% of the currently adopted budget, a budget amendment public hearing is required, and that is the action that we are taking tonight. Anyone who wishes to speak to the item is now invited to do so.
So we vote, the public hearing's open. Anybody wish to speak?
Really cleared out.
Never gonna talk about finances.
My name is Jim Messier. I live at 1621 Kingston Circle here in the town of Bedford. I also serve as a volunteer member on the Bedford Town Housing Authority. And Rusty, the chairman, Rusty Mansell, was planning to be here, but he's not feeling well. So, but relative to the rollover, as many of you are aware, a number of years ago, there was about $130,000 that was the Housing Authority was charged with help people stay in their houses. Early on, things were kind of loose. Over the past couple of years, we've put a very good criteria together and worked our way down to about $17,000. About 6-8 months ago, realizing that we were coming towards the end of the funds that were there, we talked to some members of council, some staff, and it was suggested that we find some grants to go out and fill the coffers back up. Mary and Ms. Johnson, some other folks, found a really great grant about 2 years ago. And it's what is now going to be the Hilltop Project. The way that was intended to work was that it would be a low-interest loan program to rehab that area, and as that money came back into the repaid as loans, that would then be used for the Housing Authority to be able to keep people in their homes that couldn't otherwise afford to do it. Between the time we applied for it and it was granted, it was made entirely a grant. So what we had set out to do to be able to try and get a revenue stream out of it, thankfully, over $900,000 is going to be spent in the project. It's going to really help with, there are 6 demolitions that are going to be rebuilt as new homes, which is also going to help the town in the tax rolls and whatnot, but it does absolutely nothing as far as the housing authorities need now. And so I would respectfully ask that you consider some of the rollover funds to be able to continue the work that the Housing Authority has done. I apologize if any of my numbers are wrong. I didn't prepare anything, but this is all just kind of from memory. But I think if I'm off base, Mary would correct me. So I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak at the public hearing? No, we'll close the public hearing. So the first item on the agenda of the new business is the rollover and reappropriation of funds for incomplete projects as of June 30th, 2021.
At the end of fiscal year 2021, the town had numerous projects which were not completed or encumbered by a purchase order. The funds, however, for these projects are still needed in order to complete the designated work. After a review of the request for rollover funds, the town manager is recommending an attached list of projects be approved for rollover from fiscal year 2021 and reappropriated to fiscal year 2022. A detailed listing of the amounts requested by account number is attached to the action form in your packet. The cumulative total of the appropriations itemized is $1,197,546.99. Because this amount of appropriations exceeds 1% of the currently adopted budget, a budget amendment public hearing and process is required. Public hearing was just held and concluded, and shortly you'll have a chance to discuss the attached list. Tonight you are requested to approve the rollover and reappropriation of funds in the amount identified for various local government and enterprise projects per the attached list. Council is also requested to designate $1,197,546.99 from the fiscal year 2021 prior year fund balance to offset this increase in expenditures.
We have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the rollover of reappropriation of funds in the amount of $1,197,546.99 to provide funds for various local government and enterprise projects per attached list, and that we designate $1,197,546.99 from fiscal year 2021 prior year fund balance to offset the increase in expenditures.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All right, discussion?
I think would this now be the time to discuss each one of these projects to determine if we can use this for what Mr. Messier was talking about?
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
that's a separate item,
It's a
however,
separate item.
but you could
Before we
incorporate it.
approve this rollover, we need to probably hopefully make some things out of it.
Short answer is yes.
all right.
And I'm just checking, I've always felt like if you can't get something done in a couple of years, you really didn't need to do it. And I was just looking at a few things, and first I want to ask, on the police, is this the DARE camp contributions of $22,000?
Yes, that's contributions that we've received over the past few years for cop camp, and then for other crime prevention issues, they donate, they'll go into a donation account.
So is it fund building, or are you just kind of taking?
It's pretty much staying even, I think, and we get money in and it doesn't drop too much, so.
I'm not going to advocate to take your money then. The Community Improvement Fund, is that enterprise money?
No, the enterprise zone maintenance is dedicated to funding the waiver of fees and other incentives that we have to provide through that. The Community Improvement Fund, that might be for various projects associated with town properties. Is that correct, Ms. James?
That's correct. It
Okay.
started out with $100,000 in that account, and we have used it for various community projects and upgrades. And this is the amount that you have left over that we have, that we can do any other projects that council deems fit to do with this $11,000.
That's what we use to work on Liberty Lake.
That's correct.
Okay.
But there's nothing specifically right now that's.
Nothing designated to
right
come
now.
out of this money. We keep this money available in case council sees something they want done, and they tell us to do it, and this is the account that I go to pull those funds from.
Follow up on that. We just worked on the docks and stuff. Is that where that money will come from, or is that coming from somewhere else?
A portion of it will come from that, but we're not going to have enough money to cover the docks, so we need to roll this over. I'll have to take it out of other accounts as well.
All the side, that's VDOT money, we can't fool with that. Correct.
That's correct, it is grant funded.
And we are obligated to spend it.
Yes, we are.
I was noticing in the electric some items here. It was here in 2018 and 2016 and 2013. Those projects that why are we continuously rolling them over?
I don't know of anything from 2013, but we'll just go down the list.
Replace speed increaser.
No, that's a new speed increaser. That's the one for Unit 5.
Where are you, Steve?
I'm on this sheet here.
Not on the purchase orders.
No, roll over.
No, the speed increaser that's listed here is the new one that's going on, Unit 5, and that work is ongoing as we speak, and we wanted to roll that money over in case we encountered something that we did not expect. It's a very delicate installation procedure, and we need to have some room in case we have to make a change to it or change the way that it's aligned. It's a very, very delicate procedure.
It was appropriated in 2013, John, and $66,000 is left.
No, that's wrong.
If I may,
Yeah.
I may speak.
Go ahead.
We have over 1,000 object lines that we do not recreate additional object lines every time we have a project, if it's similar to a project that we've done in the past. So this is from an object line that we created and used in the past that we have just perpetuated that money. So that 2013 was when that object line was first created, not necessarily when the money was populated into the line for it.
And you can see where we're at.
So that previously it was for the speed increaser.
The original speed
number
increaser,
4,
when
right.
it went bad.
So this, you're saying this money is now available, left over to be used towards
It was part of the budget for Unit 5.
Unit 5, okay. So the number 4 rebuild is where it kind of,
And I can take the number 4 rebuild off of the object line, and just for rebuild of speed increasers, this is the line that we use going forward for any rebuilding any of our speed increasers.
And the intent is to use this as a contingency fund.
That's correct.
So we may not spend it either, but
right.
we don't want to come up
See
short.
the 13,
Correct.
When it says Unit 4, actually what happened is we took the Unit 4 old speed increaser and had that rebuilt, and then that's being installed in Unit 5.
Correct.
So it's a little confusing, but that's...
is that the same answer for the commercial meters?
Commercial. Yes, what we're trying to do there is secure meters that have the ability to disconnect customers so that we don't have to send a truck out to do a disconnect. We can do it remotely.
That's a multi-year project.
Right.
And so the commercial meters, we don't create a new commercial meter object line every time we have a new funds to go into commercial meters. We just use the same existing one. But this is a multi-year project that we've been working on for several years.
They would be AMI meters, they're just keeping it.
Yeah, well, that's the only reason I'm asking. I see the dates on here. That's
Well,
why.
this is a multi-year project.
John, I have a question now with your replaced speed increaser number 4 rebuild.
Yes.
Have you looked at your insurance policy to see if that would cover it?
Not this particular one. It covered the previous one because it failed in service. But this one was just worn out. So it's a maintenance item.
I have one question. What's the SS security controls?
That's a variety of things. We had someone from the police department look at our substations and make suggestions about how we could better secure them. So some of that money goes to cameras. We now have cameras at most of our substations, and we'll continue to put cameras there. So in our new SCADA system, we can actually view what's happening at each substation, and also include new fencing and security items.
Thank you.
Bruce, you can, Van, Sidney?
I'm just looking at ADI improvements of 2012 Public Works.
Yep, I'm this one.
I mean, you're essentially looking, Steve, for where can we trade off with the
Exactly.
Yeah.
As far as the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, there's the grant was, we received one for $900,000, right? So this 50,000 is for...
We're going to have an action item, Dan, we'll have an action item where we talk about that. So if we could, let's just kind of stay focused on the rollover a little bit, and then we can get a little more explanation when we get into that action item for appropriating that money. I don't want to kind of, if that's okay.
That's fine.
But to follow up on the ADA question, Is that something that's continuous, or?
Well, we rolled that money over. If you'll recall, it was first budgeted when you did the ramp out here. And as we have done different projects, the ADA compatible restroom downstairs, we have used that money for that. So we generally roll this over in case there is another ADA item identified within the town that needs to be taken care of, or within any of the properties that needs to be addressed. We usually roll that money over to address that. You guys can take the money if you want, but if there is a future ADA thing that's required by law that we take, that we have to do, then we'll have to identify that money at a later point.
But we could put that in an upcoming budget to address that.
You could, unless it was an immediate need, yes, that had to be addressed. But yes, you absolutely could.
Yeah. So, CD, did you have any other questions?
I'm good, thanks.
The enterprise zone maintenance, I know that number has been very close to that number for the 6 years I've been on council. So it seems like, I mean, can someone explain to me what that could potentially be used for, and do we need that much in there if we're only using on average so much a year? I mean,
Okay, and I'll count on Ms. Zirkle to smack me if I say anything incorrect. Largely, that's related to the local incentives we provide in the enterprise zone. Primarily, that's the waiver of permit fees, that being building permits, zoning permits, signs. Business license also, I think, only $30 a pop there. But, yeah, it's really just kind of an endowment for maintenance of those local incentives, and there's really no predictability to it. I mean, it just depends on what happens within the zone.
so if we left, I'm thinking if we left you 5,000, 10,000, I mean, like I said, if we're trying to, what we're talking about later, but anyway.
We feel obligated to provide those local incentives, so you could reduce that amount, but it's possible that we could wind up overspending.
Overspending in that line item.
Which is true of any line.
But that would be a good thing because activity's happening, so, I mean, that's.
Good way to look at it.
You anticipate this year anything coming?
I can hope and always do.
Well, we always
It depends
do.
on the scale of the projects that come in as well.
We are seeing more activity in the former industrial base of town, I'll say that much.
Well, that was my follow-up question. Are they, the new lofts or whatever they're doing now, have they applied and got, or are they going to apply and got to get?
They're just outside. They are located just outside of the zone.
Oh, they
They're
are?
in the enterprise zone, but not the downtown area.
Gotcha, okay. So it's downtown.
Well, that's part of it. Yeah.
So, the sidewalks, that's a big number. I think I know where a portion of that is probably in the Burks Hill project. Is that, would you say that's correct? Or is the Burks Hill project kind of outside of that?
Probably.
That's all.
I'm sorry, you would have to ask the Public Works Director that question.
I think some of it probably is, but yeah, that's a,
Okay.
and also that's VDOT money, so that's not locally generated.
All of this is VDOT grant funded.
No, all I'm just saying is that's a pot of money that is obviously we keep rolling over and we keep talking about fixing sidewalks. But,
We'd like to get caught up too.
No, I wasn't, I was just wondering how much of that is maybe kind of earmarked. And maybe down the road we can we can give us a little.
I'm speculating, but I imagine the Burks Hill is a significant chunk of that, but I'll verify that.
That's fine. Same thing, storm drainage, I mean, that's got to be spent on that. So. Todd, where are we on the records management system? I know that's on the other side of the street, but it's been out there a while.
We had the project started. We had to reset the project and move to a different direction. We're waiting on the county to decide which one we're going to purchase basically at this point. We've got two options and we're waiting for them to decide. Or as soon as they know, we'll be able to get the project in motion again.
Is that a real number, 125?
Yes. It may actually be low with the newer ones they're looking at.
Lower?
It may be, no, that may be too low.
Oh, okay.
It may be more than that once they buy the new, what's the new ones they're looking at.
Okay. I don't have any other, I don't think I have any other questions at this time.
So as far as items you guys were talking about possibly trimming, the enterprise zone maintenance, and what else was it? Asset, there was one.
ADA.
So should we roll that over in this particular action and then talk about reappropriating it from these line items to a potential other line item, which is a better way to...
I'm looking at Ms. James because I'm going to need her help to not make this super complicated.
Right.
I think if you take it out of this reappropriation, you would effectively have to take it from unrestricted net assets in another action.
Right, because it's not in the budget at that point in time, is that...
Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes, we can do it however council chooses to do it. However, your public hearing was based on these totals that we have here, not including a $50,000 additional request. So you have to have a public hearing on the amount published in the newspaper or less than.
Right.
So we can go ahead and appropriate these amounts and then use those, and the difference of the $50,000 additional request I can pull from fund balance from another account. But I can't reduce this and then add additional, the difference of the $50,000 request, because that causes our rollover and reappropriations to be more than what you published in the newspaper of what you were going to roll over and reappropriate.
Right, so
So
we
I would
can't
go ahead-
approve more than the 1.197, right?
You can't in this particular action because that's what was posted in the public hearing. However, you can roll these over, designate which lines you want me to take and put towards the $50,000 request. And then when we get to that action item, instruct me to take to find the difference between what you have rolled over and the $50,000, and I will find that from another budget line and do a budget amendment based on that.
All right, I'll make a motion that we...
Well, we got a motion on the table right now to appropriate this.
Okay.
So, check.
I can amend the motion.
You could.
I'd like to amend the motion for the following numbers, and we'll have debate on this one. On the enterprise zone maintenance, leave 5,000 in there.
I thought we were just saying that the way to do it was to roll it over as is, and then in the next, we can take.
You can reduce it. You can reduce the rollover, you can't increase it.
Right, we can't increase, but if we approve what we got, and then
Accounting wise, I can take what you designate me to reduce
Right, 'cause
later on
if you
and
reduce-
put that towards your $50,000.
Well, that's what I think I'm correct.
Yeah,
Reducing it, we're not increasing it, so we're right.
But if you reduce it, then you don't have the 50,000 in there to
Well,
get.
no, we haven't decided on the 50.
Exactly, so that's why.
That's still going to have to be a new appropriation.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's semantics, I can do it either way, whichever.
But that one's not 1%, that's the difference.
Correct.
I may be
Yes.
totally wet, but do we have funds somewhere else that we could
Sure.
could appropriate for this, the 50,000?
Do we have funds somewhere else? No, I don't have like a miscellaneous fund account. What I can do is reduce some expenditure lines to move that money into this expense line to cover those. But you have to understand, you're talking two different funds. Okay, so the council has to approve this. When we do a fund transfer, council has to approve it. So you will have to approve me reducing lines in the general fund in order to go into the authority fund in order to do that.
That's the action
So-
item later on.
That's the action item.
We're talking about this now, the numbers we're
Yes,
going in here.
absolutely, it's semantics, you can do it either way you prefer. You can reduce those lines now, and then I can move those monies into their fund, but what you can do is bring that $50,000 and just plop it in this, because then you're approving more than what you advertised.
That's, I don't think that was happening. So I think I'm on the right. Yeah, where was I?
On the enterprise.
Zone is currently 21,434.97. We could make that an even $5,000, whatever the difference there is.
16,434.
Okay. And on the ADA improvements, $14,893.25. Reduce that to zero.
So why are we doing this?
For later.
Wait a minute.
Like later in the meeting.
Later in the meeting.
Okay.
I mean, these numbers have been here, and if there's an ADA improvement, it would come, you can put that back in your a new budget. It's not like typically we would have something tomorrow that says you have to fix it. Correct?
Correct.
Y'all with me?
It's really
So we're
kind of creating an earmark.
What's that
16
grand
and
total?
14, we're at 30 right now, right?
We're at 30.
31,327.
All right. Which it then make roll over. You got your calculator.
18, you need additional 18,673 to designate.
Well, we're not there yet.
Well, I mean, I think what
That's for
you're,
my calculator.
I think what you're really doing is creating an earmark within the rollover.
Within the $1.197 million, I think we still need to roll over the $1.197 million.
But
We're
you're
just
correct.
moving line items. We're moving,
Yep.
we're still going, if we come up with 50, we're going to take 50 out of probably some of these rollovers.
You're going to approve 1.197, but in a couple of motions, you're effectively going to direct us to steer some of that towards 50.
Yeah, which, well, I was going to make the motion, whatever that number was, that was just
31,327.
327,
But what I'm
would be
saying,
1.6 something.
I think you should still approve the rollover as presented.
Yeah, just keep it simple.
However, you will direct us two items from
Okay,
now.
all right, later
because if you
on.
lower it
To appropriate
if you
from
lower it to
unrestricted monies.
30,000, then you don't have the money in there to move around.
I got you.
You see what I'm saying?
But we have that amount noted when we get there.
Okay, all right, let's go on.
All right, so
If that's all the adjustment you wanted to make,
All right, can we?
and I kind of hope it is.
all right, so the motion.
Mr. Horowitz-
Is to appropriate the 1.197,546.99
Yes.
and roll
We're
over.
talking about Mr. Hartwell's motion.
Mr. Hart's motion.
I don't agree with you, but y'all go with
You're making it awfully complicated, that's all
Any
I
other
tell you.
discussion? All right, okay, roll call.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Showen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right. So now we have reappropriation of funds from outstanding purchase orders from fiscal year 2021.
And this is similar to the action you just took, but at the end of each fiscal year, we typically have purchase orders which are outstanding, representing work that has not yet been completed. These represent goods and services that often have already been ordered but have not yet been received, or invoices that have not been paid as of June 30th at the end of the fiscal year. Town staff is requesting the reappropriation of the funds that are outstanding on purchase orders as of June 30, 2021 to the budget for fiscal year 2022. Attached to this action form is a detailed list of the amounts requested by account number. The total of the requested fiscal year 2021 purchase order appropriations is $1,046,771.61. And tonight we are requesting that you approve the reappropriation of purchase orders per the attached list and the amount referenced. Council has also requested to designate the amount referenced from fiscal year 2021 prior year fund balance to offset the increase in expenditures.
We have a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the purchase orders outstanding fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $1,046,771.60.
Second. Any discussion?
Basically, this money's been spent this afternoon.
Yeah, one just
Encumbered.
point of clarity. So the ordered amount is this, the size of the purchase order,
That
correct?
is the original amount, that's correct.
And then what is the open amount? Is that what we've already spent?
The open amount is what you have left to spend from your ordered amount. Your open amount could be final invoices coming in that we have yet to receive in order to pay those.
Okay, so it's...
We could use the open amount, we could use that maximum, but if those invoices come in less than what we have in the open amount, then we liquidate those purchase orders and that remaining balance goes back into the budget in order to be used elsewhere.
Okay.
Does that typically happen?
Occasionally it does. However, in our post-COVID environment, we are seeing that less and less because things are getting more expensive and less timely.
So is this for work not done yet, so you haven't gotten the bill because the work wasn't done?
Well, they could be in the middle of doing work and just not final billed us. We could be at the point where we have to inspect the work before we'll pay them a final invoice. It could be in any capacity of the project.
For example, you order a police car and does that guy get?
Correct, that is. But I don't think there's one.
That's...
Okay. Did I leave a here? Yes.
So,
I'm trying to simplify.
Yes.
any questions on any specific ones? The gateway signs, so that's the phase 2.
That's what we talked about in a prior meeting. I estimated we had around $38,000 that we had to spend towards the PO.
Okay.
So that's what we have
So
left.
right now, we got
If
roughly
you-
the 31,000.
If you approve to reappropriate this fund, then we can continue using that. What will happen is I will liquidate this PO and then use that $38,000 towards the vendors that we are currently using for the second phase.
Okay, all right, yeah, because I saw the
Yeah,
vendor
yeah,
name
we'll
on it, yeah.
liquidate that PO
Okay.
and use those funds.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Who was the second on that motion?
Bruce Johansson.
Okay. Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, let's see, next item is appropriation of funds, Centerville transformer replacement.
Continuing on the similar but different vein of this meeting, the fiscal year 21-22 adopted budget included a capital item for replacement of a transformer at the Centerville substation. The amount budgeted for this activity was $150,000. After soliciting and receiving proposals for the work, the lowest bid we received was in the amount of $320,000. Staff has identified this as a very high priority project and wishes to commence with it as soon as is practical. To that end, we are requesting an increase in the amount budgeted and appropriated for this work with an account number of 5998-1940.581156 from $150,000 to $320,000. Otherwise, we will need to delay and/or reassess the priorities for other existing projects within the current year budget. The specific action we're requesting you to take is to increase the budgeted and appropriated funds for account number 5998-1940.581156 from $150,000 to $320,000. For the record, that does not constitute an increase of 1%.
Correct.
So we have a motion to increase the appropriation for the Centerville transformer replacement.
I move that we increase the budget of appropriated funds for said account from 150 to 320,000.
I'll second that.
Any questions?
Technically, it's $170,000.
Why is the increase?
Yeah. Do a little
Is
info.
it cost related?
I'll let Mr. Wagner speak to that.
Well, there's a variety of reasons, but first of all, the transformer that was there, we were hoping to have it rebuilt. So that's really the cost to rebuild the old transformer, the $150,000. When we had it examined after some period of time, we found it could not be rebuilt. So now we have to pay for a new transformer plus to dispose of the old transformer. And that's primarily why we were budgeting the $150,000 instead of $320,000. We were hoping to get away with just a rebuild of the existing transformer, but it's so badly damaged it cannot be rebuilt.
What's the time frame on, I mean, obviously,
It could be up to a year.
yeah, so, I mean, obviously, we're probably not gonna spend all that $320. Do you have to pay for the whole thing up front, or is it paid
No.
when it's delivered, or is
You
it?
pay when it's delivered. There's no progress payments on this, but,
So it's paid when it's delivered?
you know, you pledge the funds so
Right.
that the manufacturer knows he's going to get paid.
No, I get that, but realistically, it's not gonna be, not gonna be paid for, is it, in the next 8 months?
It'll probably be a rollover next year, just.
Probably a rollover, or, yeah.
Unlikely.
It's unlikely. What we found, just as a matter of course, is lead times are getting longer and longer. And you heard when the Burlock folks were here, it's just so hard now to get material. In fact, we're going to do a strategic planning session to identify items that we need, that are critical to our operation, and try and order as much of that as we can, not expecting to get it for 6 months or maybe perhaps a year.
Just real quick, we budgeted this 150 this past budget year.
Yes,
So
2020.
you have jumped on that pretty quick.
Right.
Okay. Well, Delta Star is right down the street.
Yeah, well, they didn't bid on the project, but
All right, where are we going to come up with that 170?
Unrestricted net assets within the electric fund.
Well, if you'll recall from your financial reports, we actually have a restricted account for capital improvement projects that we keep, so that will basically, in essence, be coming from your fund balance.
Yeah, 4.361.
And it may come from just regular cash flows, between now and then. I mean, you may not
That is
have to.
correct. It could very well, if we have a good year, come from your operating cash accounts.
Yeah.
The short answer,
However,
fund balance is the short answer.
worst case scenario, it would come from your restricted capital improvement.
But we are in fact sitting on a rather large sum of money for the electric company, are we not?
It came down a good bit this month with, I think, a pretty large purchase order, but, and you know, we do have, but yeah, I mean, we're setting better than we have in.
Well, remember,
The
you
new
have
laws.
your reserve policy, your electric
Right.
cash reserve policy that you try to adhere to. So that takes up a chunk of that restricted money that you have.
Which was, what is that? We're at that or exceeding it or below it?
We're closing in on it, I think.
We are increasing our accounts to catch up with that reserve policy. However, we're not there yet.
Was it 5% or something?
25%.
It's about 5.3 million, wasn't it, last
Yes,
time?
it's in the back of your budget books designated in that policy.
Any other questions? All right, roll call.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Showen? Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley? Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mayor Black? Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, next item, appropriation of funds for the redevelopment and housing authority. So,
For many years, the Redevelopment and Housing Authority carried forward funds from a prior community development block grant project that was executed back in the 1980s. Approximately 10 years ago, the town directed the authority to spend down those funds in an effort to remove any potential obstacles or objections to future applications for CDBG funding. In the course of executing that directive, the authority enacted an assistance program with a documented set of criteria that was very successful in the community in terms of meeting the accounting-related directive, as well as getting that money out in the community and putting it to use for people who are at need. Based on that experience, the current membership of the authority wish to continue the assistance program and have asked for an initial commitment of the town of $50,000 to fund potential grant awards under their existing criteria. The previous concern related to CDBG accounting has been abated. In fact, I'll remind you that the town has very recently been awarded a CDBG construction grant worth over $900,000. Tonight, Town Council is requested to increase the budget and appropriate funds for use by the Redevelopment and Housing Authority in the amount of $50,000. And I will also reference your previous action and remind you that you can use $31,327 from appropriated line items for enterprise zone maintenance and ADA improvement toward that effort.
All right, we have a motion.
I make a motion to increase the budget and appropriate funds for use by the Redevelopment and Housing Authority in the amount of $50,000.
Second.
All right, discussion.
With the 31.
I have a hiccup with not with appropriating, and I know I've had my hand slapped a couple times trying to spend money that wasn't budgeted. And I think Jim gave us a number of what they currently have in their budget. What was that, Murray? Do you know?
That's not much.
15, 20, 16,000?
It's essentially zero because the amount that was left was pledged towards the $921,000. So we offered a $17,000 match from the Housing Authority, and then out of the council's budget of the demolition for $25,000.
Okay.
They were given a match so that we could get
That's 17 when you
921.
31 then.
Let's go.
We found that $31,327, which was money that we had spent for what we just discussed. I have a problem trying to appropriate money that's not discussed or budgeted, but this $31,327 would be better than what they've got, and then next year put it in the budget if we can afford it.
What if we added the community improvement fund, which adds roughly another 12,000?
I don't have a problem with what we got already.
The 31 plus that.
Yeah. Where is that?
Where are you getting that from?
That's on the 11,786, and that it's all.
Oh, second down.
Yeah, that would put it up to 42 something.
Which,
143,000.
you know, and that kind of gets us, I mean, that gets us, and Jim and I had this conversation too, and I tend to agree with Steve that, you know, I'd like to, if this is something long-term we're going to keep viable, and I think we should, then it needs to be a line item in our budget every year that we debate and we talk about and we see the results of what they're doing. But, I mean, they're right now stuck. I mean, they can just wait till next fiscal year and see if we put some money in the budget at that time, or we can give them some money where they keep up with this assistance grant program outside of the big grant and keep up the good work that they've been doing, you know.
So how does this, educate me, we get a $900,000 grant, is that there?
That's a different pot of
That's a
money.
little different.
For what?
That is specifically for the CDBG construction project that's administered through DHCD. What they're asking for is funding for their local program focused exclusively on Bedford.
And that
For example, they fixed a bathroom or something.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
The $900,000 doesn't go to that?
No.
No, the problem we had before was the old CDBG grant we had, I have to be very careful how I phrase this in a public meeting. There were some residual money left over. Rather than close the grant, that money was carried forward and grew by any number of methods. And that became the housing authority's pot that they needed to do away with because from a standpoint of, not that we committed arbitrage, we certainly didn't, those were audited numbers, but to remove any kind of questions about a shadow of that previous funding, to go to the feds or DHCD and ask for CDBG funds, you can't have an existing account out there. So we had to close out that account, that existing grant. Then we had to get rid of that money to remove that cloud on the new application. I hope I've explained that appropriately.
The 50,000, Jim, I don't know if you're taking questions from back there, but what, is there something about that number that has to be? I mean, if we give you 41?
If you gave us 41, there are people we can start helping
that can tie you over till the next fiscal year, and then we can discuss this in a real budget meeting.
And I would love to see it become part of a budgeted item. I operate a business, I understand the importance of the budget and spending within the limits. It is heartbreaking sometimes to sit in the seats that y'all are sitting in and hear from people that are doing everything they can to stay in their homes and know that there's nothing we can do right now.
But this should carry over to July or whatever?
This carries us further than we're going right now.
I know, I just don't want it to still not work, you know?
Yes, let me ask you something. Is there a maximum amount, was it 5,000 that y'all approved? Was it a maximum amount?
We've capped it at 10, and there's some projects that go there. A lot of them tend to be in the $6,000 to $7,000 range. There's a lot of roofs. I mean, that's a big, and we've discussed that. But we have very good, solid criteria. And so a lot of this, most everything that doesn't fall into the financial need is screened out before it ever gets to the authority. As kind of a side note, the members of the authority are also on the management team with the project that's going on Hilltop now. So it's in addition to other community members. Bob Carson is very, very involved in that project.
Maybe you can't say, but like on an annual basis, is that the number or?
This is a
what are we
little,
looking at?
50 was roughly what we were looking at in a year.
An annual amount?
So this would wrap us to the next fiscal year.
Since we're
We're in a heck of a lot better shape than we were an hour ago.
Yeah, I just want to say something. First of all, Jim, thank you for coming out and representing the Housing Authority. I wish we could give more to try and help people out there going through a hard time. And I know especially the climate right now with COVID, some people are still scared of COVID, to be honest. And maybe this can help some of those people that have lost their jobs due to COVID, maybe stay in their homes, help them out. This is a good way to show we care, and I wish we could do more, but we can only afford to do so much, but we'll do what we can. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you, everybody.
And I will say, I want to say, I've been involved in this from the beginning, a very worthwhile project. And as Jim said, you really have to see that to appreciate it. The presentations that they put on and people involved, that Mary and others did the footwork, I mean, it has been very enlightening to me. And I appreciate things like this a lot more. I think 50,000 is very worthwhile.
Yeah, and another factor too is, I mean, if we're spending a dollar here to keep someone in a home, it's probably preventing us from having to spend more than that if down the road from a demolition standpoint, from just lighting the neighborhood.
It's going to get more pricey as time goes on.
Exactly. So I mean, I think if we can stick around those three numbers and get them through next year and then have a serious discussion about what the right number is on an annual basis and build it into a budget, then I think that's probably appropriate.
Right now, we're 8 months out, so it should cover it.
Correct.
So my question is, it 41,000 or 43,000?
43,113.
Okay, I got 43,115, so I didn't know. That's what I was asking.
So what are the three line items we're talking about?
Enterprise zone maintenance, ADA improvements, and community improvements.
And this wouldn't increase the budget?
No, this is in that, money's in that 1.197.
Correct.
We're just taking those three line items that are in that number and moving it to the housing authority.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we find like maybe $1,500, make it 45 even? I mean, you just ask that question.
I'm sure we can.
I mean, you can appropriate whatever you want, and we can follow your direction.
Well, we got this number, and that's the number they got, a budgeted amount. I mean, if it,
I mean, he was saying he thinks 50 is a good number for a whole year. We're only 8 months,
yeah.
so
43 is probably going to get them there. I mean, you know.
And they may have some, who knows? I don't know what your workload's going to be.
You're absolutely, no, we don't either. We don't, I know there are 3 projects that we've said we can't even take them on at this point, but I don't know what they are.
Okay.
I just know there's.
tough getting contractors, isn't it?
Actually, we've been able to find.
Have you?
Yeah.
I will say this.
And in that respect, I have to admit, having Gary as an integral part of this project has been really, really been a game changer for what we're able to do and do at a good price.
I will say this, and I can't get too in depth with it. There was pressure to get rid of that money many of the years. So it was being put out pretty easily, and a couple incidences, it was too easy, but they tightened up on it where you really screened them at.
Yes.
All right, so
Do we
we have,
Motion to,
do we need to amend that motion?
I need to amend the motion. That we appropriate 43,113, if that's the number of the 3. From the rollovers that we previously talked about to the housing and urban development authority. Second.
Well, who made the original motion?
I did.
The original.
Oh, well, you're good. Yeah, you can amend your own motion. You're fine. Yep.
Oh, you did. That's right.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
All right. Roll call.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
Don't get your apron.
Next item is a resolution on the Hilltop Community Revitalization Project Housing Grant document.
The town began work on the Hilltop Community Revitalization Project as a follow-up implementation strategy to the School-to-School Bridge Street Revitalization Project. The Department of Housing and Community Development awarded the town the requested grant funds of $921,983 to rehabilitate or rebuild 11 specific houses described in the application over a period of 2 years. This award of funds is pending several documents and actions as part of the 120-day contract negotiation period. On August 24, 2021, Town Council approved or adopted several documents to meet the requirements of DHCD. At the time of that meeting, there were additional documents that were under review by DHCD and are required for action at this time as follows. 1, certification of a program income plan. 2, adoption of a housing program design. And 3, town manager execution of a project management plan. At the August 12, 2021 meeting of the Redevelopment and Housing Authority, members reviewed these draft documents and made a motion to recommend adoption of these for council action. The time for DHCD review and comment on those documents has passed, so council may now take action. Tonight, Town Council is requested to adopt the attached resolution that encompasses these actions and authorization for the town manager to sign other documents as required by DHCD for issuing a contract to the town for awarded housing improvement funds.
Motion.
So I move that we approve the additional matters related to the Department of Housing and Community Development Block Grant. We need to say more.
I second.
Sounds good to me.
Any questions? Okay, so I'll review these, Mike. Have you reviewed these, Mike?
I have.
And you don't see any issues?
They're just fine.
Okay.
In fact, most of it I didn't even find typos. I have to say Matt Perkins is a very careful man.
No other questions? Good. Roll call.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, Mike. Are there
Yeah, I want to make a comment. I didn't want to do it a while ago with the galley full, but I'm going to submit my resignation from council effective November 30th. That will give, I've spoken to Mike about this. You have 45 days, so this will extend it out another 30-some to give you time to find a good qualified candidate and prior to our budget, y'all's budget process, negotiations and process. And as far as the reasons, I'll comment later about why I'm stepping down, but I feel like I've done my 13-plus years. I've got other things I need to do.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Sorry to.
So you say you're surprised. You know better now.
We don't miss you.
I bet you do.
Honestly,
So you can probably start advertising.
yeah, we'll just have to figure out the process.
No, you're not gone yet.
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
I know, but it gives you more time.
Okay.
The law says 45.
From the date of that, from the effective date, and you can rescind up till the effective date.
Exactly. All right.
I got one thing, Mr. Mayor, I forgot to mention in council comments. The Department of Rail and Public Transportation came to Bedford last night, had a public meeting up here at the Welcome Center. Representatives from the town and the Bedford Rail Franklin Coalition group was there, plus the delegate Austin. And they were talking about the train coming to Bedford. Spring of next year, they're supposed to have a bus coming through Bedford for picking up passengers for the train day, and possibly everything's moving along pretty quickly, so hopefully we'll have the train sometime in the near future.
Yeah, it was a very good meeting, and anyway.
We were looking at, they're looking at a couple of sites. Macon Street, I think, was the main one that they were interested in. So it's, that was, and we may have to do some improvements to that road.
So yeah, we'll probably need to have some discussions in more depth on that.
There's one more thing I want to add. When we do get the bus going from here to Lynchburg to kind of show a little bit of support for having a train stop, I would encourage everybody that wants to take the train and wants the train stop here, please ride that bus to Lynchburg to show that there is support here for a train stop. Thank you.
All right, with that, we're adjourned.
Until 6 o'clock November 9th. You're adjourned, meeting until 6 p.m. on November 9th for a work session.
For a work session. Okay, thank you, yes. All right.
That's-